I thought it was just another normal evening. The house was quiet. Too quiet, in fact. My 11-year-old son, Ethan, sat in the living room, nervously glancing at the clock every few minutes. His little foot tapped the hardwood floor like a ticking time bomb. My 14-year-old daughter, Chloe, hadn't spoken a word since dinner, her eyes glued to her phone with an expression that said more than words ever could. Then, the doorbell rang. Ding-dong. Ethan froze. His entire body went stiff like he'd been hit with a jolt of electricity. He turned to me with wide eyes and whispered in a voice that barely escaped his throat, "Dad, don't open that. Please, don't let Mom in." I blinked, confused. "What are you talking about? She just got back from her business trip." Ethan didn't explain. He just bolted to me, grabbed my wrist tightly, tighter than any kid his age should, and begged, "We have to go. Now, out the back. Please, Dad. Trust me." Something in his eyes, fear, panic, something real told me not to ask questions. I grabbed my keys, turned to Chloe for a cue. She gave the slightest nod and followed. We slipped out the back door as the doorbell rang again. Ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. As soon as I started the car engine, Ethan looked back toward the house, his face pale. And that's when it happened. Boom! A loud thud rattled the front of the house. Glass shattered. I slammed the gas pedal, heart racing, questions spinning in my head. What the hell was going on? And why were my kids, our kids, terrified of their own mother? We drove in silence for 10 minutes before I even dared to speak. "Ethan, Chloe, what's going on?" Ethan just stared out the window, but Chloe, sitting beside him in the back seat, finally broke the silence. "She's not the same, Dad. Ever since that business trip, she's been acting weird, angry, secretive, and last night she came home early." I slowed the car. "What? I thought she was arriving today. She texted me she was catching the late flight." Chloe looked down at her hands, voice trembling. "She did come today, but she was here last night too. She thought you weren't home. She brought someone with her." I felt the blood leave my face. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. "Someone? Who?" Neither of them spoke. Ethan let out a shaky breath and finally whispered, "A man. He stayed in the house, slept in your bed. I heard them laughing. I nearly pulled the car over." My heart dropped into my stomach. I stared straight ahead, trying to piece it together. "But why were you both home? You were supposed to be at Grandma's." Chloe's voice was cold now, a sharp contrast to the emotion earlier. "She never took us there. She told us to stay in our rooms and keep quiet. But I heard everything. Ethan saw more than he should have. He snuck out of his room and saw them. In your bed, Dad." Ethan nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "She saw me. She just told me to forget it." I stopped the car on the shoulder. I needed air, needed time. But I didn't have either. My wife, the woman I trusted, the woman who gave me these kids, had brought another man into our home, into our lives, and had the audacity to try and gaslight her own children into silence. And suddenly, her late-night business trips, the coldness, the avoidance, it all clicked. But I still didn't know what she was truly hiding. That's when Chloe said something that froze me in my seat. "Dad, it's not just cheating. There's something worse, something she's planning." We pulled into a deserted rest stop just off the highway. The night air was cold, sharp, and carried a silence that made my heart race. I turned off the engine and faced my kids. "Tell me everything, now." Chloe didn't hesitate. She unlocked her phone and opened a folder labeled Proof. Photos, screenshots, voice recordings. I scrolled through, and my stomach turned. Pictures of my wife, Karen, dressed in lingerie, posing in our bedroom. But she wasn't alone. The man beside her wasn't just anyone. It was my best friend, Marcus. The same Marcus who'd helped me through my layoff. The same Marcus who'd attended every family barbecue, who held my kids like an uncle would. I could barely breathe. "You're kidding me," I whispered. "This can't be real." Chloe nodded. "They've been together for months, Dad. She used the business trips as a cover. She even used your old laptop. I found all this saved in the trash folder she forgot to empty." Ethan clung to me now, trying not to cry. "But it's worse than that," Chloe said. "She's been meeting with a lawyer behind your back." I stared at her. "A divorce lawyer?" Chloe hesitated. "Yes, but not just that. She was trying to make it look like you were the problem. She told them you were unstable after losing your job, that you were threatening, that she feared for her safety. I felt like I was falling through the floor. She's trying to take everything, Dad. The house, full custody, even Grandma's retirement fund. She filed paperwork to liquidate it, claiming it was jointly invested." A dull ringing filled my ears. I felt my world collapsing from all sides. But I had one question burning in my mind. Why? Why destroy everything we built? Why drag the kids into this? Why lie, cheat, and manipulate on a level so cold it could shatter stone? Then Ethan spoke up. "She's coming back tonight. Not just for us. She's coming with Marcus. He had a key. I heard them talking. They were going to say you ran off, that you abandoned us. The plan had been set. Frame me, replace me, rewrite the story. Karen wasn't just cheating, she was erasing me, and I wasn't about to let that happen." The rest stop's flickering light buzzed above us as I sat in the driver's seat, fists clenched, mind racing. I could have driven straight to the house, could have confronted them, could have screamed, broken things, made headlines. But that's what Karen wanted. If I walked in yelling, she'd play the scared wife act. Police would arrive. Her lies would become official. So I took a breath and called someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Uncle Ray," I said, voice low. Ray was my late brother's best friend, a former federal investigator, the kind of guy who knew how to handle dirty games quietly. He didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in 4 hours. Don't go home." Click. That night, the kids and I checked into a quiet motel under a fake name. I didn't sleep. My mind kept playing the same scene on loop. Karen and Marcus in our bed. Karen whispering lies to a lawyer. My daughter crying in the hallway while her mother laughed. By morning, Ray arrived, unshaven and carrying a small briefcase. He didn't speak much. Just sat at the motel table, plugged in a hard drive and went to work. Chloe handed him the folder. Within an hour, we had enough to crush Karen in court. Photos, messages, recordings. Marcus's face clearly visible in multiple images. Bank transactions showing Karen sending him money pulled from our joint account. Audio clips of her mocking me after I lost my job. Ray looked up from the laptop. "This isn't just infidelity. This is financial fraud, custody manipulation, perjury waiting to happen." I nodded. "She thinks I'm weak. She thinks I'm going to break." He grinned. "That's her mistake." For the next 2 weeks, I played along. I sent Karen friendly texts, asked when she was coming home, acted confused and apologetic. Meanwhile, Ray helped me freeze the joint accounts, secure full custody paperwork, and back up every digital file in a private cloud. Then I quietly moved the kids to my sister's place out of state. Filed for divorce from a private attorney. All while Karen continued smiling in texts, pretending she was still working late. She didn't know the storm was already moving in. She didn't know I was done playing nice. And she definitely didn't know what was about to be revealed on signing day. The day had come. Karen walked into the sleek downtown office like she was on top of the world. Her heels clicked with every step, echoing confidence. Dressed in a sharp cream blazer and tight slacks, she looked more like a woman walking into a promotion than a divorce proceeding. Her lawyer, slick, expensive, smug, smiled as if he was about to cash a blank check. I was already seated when she arrived. Calm, silent, wearing the same suit she once mocked me for, the one she said smelled like desperation. She looked around. "Where are the kids?" I smiled. "Safe." That was the first moment her confidence flickered. The lawyers began reading through the asset disclosures. She was nodding, arms crossed, barely paying attention. This was her game. She thought I had agreed to everything. I let her believe that, right until the final financial disclosure was slid across the table. Her lawyer, a man named Grayson Tate, opened the folder casually. Then his eyes widened. He blinked, read it again, then slowly turned to her. "Karen, did you know about this?" "Know about what?" She laughed. He leaned in, whispering something. Her smile dropped instantly. I sat back, watching it happen. She snatched the folder. Her hands trembled as she scanned the page. Patent sale agreement, $90 million. My invention, my backup plan, the tech project she laughed at, the one I'd filed the provisional patent for 2 years ago, under my name only. I had finalized and sold it to a defense tech firm, quietly, after she left, after she'd said I'd always be a failure. Now, by law, the money was mine. None of it counted as marital property, because the patent was filed before we were legally married and sold after separation. Her face turned pale. This isn't right," she stammered. "This wasn't disclosed earlier." "It was," my attorney said. "You didn't ask the right questions, and your client never thought he had anything to offer because she underestimated him." Her lawyer leaned back, defeated. "We can contest it. You can try," my attorney cut in, "but you'll lose. And if you push, we'll be happy to submit the evidence of her ongoing affair, misuse of joint funds, and attempted parental alienation." Karen was frozen. Her lips moved, but no words came. She looked at me, not with rage, not with regret, with fear. And that was when I stood up, leaned in slowly, and whispered, "You broke this family, and you tried to erase me, but I built something you couldn't even imagine, while you were too busy sneaking around with a man who can't even spell integrity." I walked out of that office with my head high. She stayed seated, broken, watching everything slip away. It had been 3 days since the signing. Karen hadn't called, hadn't texted, not a single word. But then, on a quiet Saturday morning, I heard a soft knock on the door. I opened it. There she was. No makeup, hair a mess, eyes swollen, wearing the same clothes she probably hadn't changed out of in days. Behind her, a black SUV idled. It was his. Her upgrade. She wasn't holding flowers, or any explanation, just shame. I need to see them, please, just for a minute. My son Ryan peeked from behind the curtain and whispered, "Is she alone?" I looked back at her. That same woman who once laughed when I was laid off, who mocked my struggles, who said, "You'll always be a failure." Now she stood there, hollow. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You can't come inside," I said calmly. Her voice cracked. "They're my kids." "They were your kids," I replied, "until you walked out on them, until you hid your affair in their birthdays and blamed me for the fallout. Do you even know Ryan's middle name?
or what Emily's favorite book is. Tears ran down her face. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said. You made choices over and over, and now you get the result. She slumped against the porch rail, sobbing. I thought I was trading up. I thought you'd never succeed. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw what she'd become. Empty. A woman who bet against the man who loved her most. Then my daughter stepped outside, timidly. She stood between us, looked up at me, then her, and what she said next froze time. Mom, you told me Dad was controlling, that he kept you trapped, but he's the one who stayed. And you left. You lied to me. Karen's hand covered her mouth. I gently took my daughter's hand. Come inside, sweetheart. And we left her there crying on the porch, next to the SUV she once left everything for. The man inside never stepped out. He just rolled up the window and drove off without her. Weeks passed.
The house was quieter now, but not in a sad way, more like peace after a storm. The kind of quiet that lets you hear your kids' laughter echo in the halls, uninterrupted by yelling or suspicion. Ryan started sleeping better. Emily began painting again. As for me, I returned to my workshop. Not many knew, but during the time I was unemployed, I had filed a patent. A small tech solution for a logistics problem I noticed back at my old company. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. I hadn't told Karen. She laughed when I was fired, mocked me when I stayed up late sketching ideas, said, "You're wasting your time. You'll never be anything." What she didn't know, a venture firm acquired the rights to that patent for $90 million. But I stayed quiet. When we filed for divorce, she thought she'd get the house, the car, and custody. Her lawyer came in cocky, smirking, acting like they had already won. I agreed to everything: split assets, joint custody, even child support. Then came disclosure day. I handed over the last file. Her lawyer flipped through it. Then he paused, reread the line, blinked, then gasped. "Wait, you own this patent? This sale went through last month?" Karen's smile faded. "What sale?" I looked her dead in the eye. "You were too busy upgrading." She lunged at the papers, but it was too late. The asset was secured in a trust. My lawyer smiled calmly and said, "Ma'am," he disclosed it. "You just didn't ask the right questions." Her face turned pale. She whispered, "So, I get nothing." I stood, straightened my coat. "No, Karen, you get what you gave me. Nothing." And I walked away. A month after the divorce, I received an invitation. It was from Karen's parents, my former in-laws. They were hosting a family mediation dinner. They wanted to restore the bond, they said. Said Karen had been through enough. I wasn't going to go. But Ryan and Emily asked if they could come, just to hear what their grandparents had to say. So I agreed. When we arrived at their lavish home, I noticed something strange. Karen wasn't there. Her parents greeted us with tight smiles and the fakest warmth I'd ever seen. They didn't talk about the affair. They didn't talk about the lies. They talked about me, how I handled things immaturely, how I humiliated their daughter publicly, how I should have kept the money secret and let the family heal privately. I sat there, stunned. That's when Karen walked in, wearing a cheap knockoff of the dress I bought her on our anniversary. Her face was tired, lips trembling, but her eyes still carried that trace of arrogance. "I came here for the kids," she said. "Not you." I nodded. "Good, because I'm not here for you either." Her father, Harold, chimed in. "Now, son, don't forget. She's still their mother. You can't just cut her out like she's your property." Before I could speak, Emily stood up. She looked her grandfather in the eye and said words I'll never forget. "She's not his property, but we're not hers either." The room went silent. Karen's face went pale. Her mother started crying. Harold muttered something, but the words didn't matter anymore. I stood, took both my children's hands, and said, "We're done here." We walked out. A week later, I had the locks changed. I officially revoked Karen's family access from every account, key, and connection they once had. I didn't take revenge. I took back control. I rebuilt my life from the ground up, with my kids, with integrity, and with the quiet power of truth. Karen? She now lives in a rented apartment. The man she left us for ghosted her. She's alone, no trust fund, no house, no family dinners, and no one left to blame but herself.